Welcome to Fruity Knitting. I'm Madeline.
And I'm Andrea.
And this is episode 150. For new viewers, Fruity Knitting is a 90-minute program that brings you knitting inspiration from around the world, as well as some extra snippets of travel, history, and storytelling that we hope adds joy to your life and brings a smile to your face.
And for this special 150th episode of Fruity Knitting, we have two brilliant interviews for you. Our main feature interview is with the fabulous Charlotte Stone from Stone Knits. And we interviewed Charlotte in episode 135 about her internationally best-selling book, Charming Colorwork Socks. And if you can hold that, since then, Charlotte has brought out a second book, Joyful Colorwork Socks, which I think is just as fantastic as the first. In fact, this new book isn't just a collection of gorgeous and humorous sock patterns. It also includes an entire section dedicated to teaching you how to design your own sock motifs, but using Charlotte's methods. And during the interview, Charlotte takes us through this process as she creates a brand new sock design for Fruity Knitting. Yay! It's very exciting.
Yeah.
And as you might guess from her pattern, Charlotte is great fun to hang out with, and we had a lot of fun filming the interview together. Somehow I always end up giggling a lot in Charlotte's company. So
you turn into a schoolgirl.
It's a pretty funny interview. And then in Knitters of the World, you'll meet Zanete from Zanete Knits, who I've been mentioning a few times in recent episodes because I have just finished knitting her design, the Do You Yoke sweater, which I'm wearing. Unfortunately, though, I have been pronouncing her name wrong. I've been pronouncing it the way it's written, Zanete, but it's wrong. It's Zanete. So sorry about that. Anyway, Zanete comes from the UK, or she lives in the UK, but originally she comes from Latvia, where she grew up in the 80s. And in her segment, she first of all talks about how living in the Soviet Union influenced the Latvian knitting culture, which I found super interesting, and I think you will too. Zanete has many stunning colorwork sweater designs in her portfolio, and after discovering her love for colorwork knitting, she started to translate traditional Latvian motifs, which are often inspired by pagan mythology, into really elaborate colorwork designs.
We've also included a Christmas special in which we explore our local Frankfurt Christmas market. On top of that, we have 3 finished projects in Bring and Brag, which might be a record, I'm not sure, 2 new projects and under construction. But before we get on to our projects, we just want to celebrate quickly that this is the 150th episode. So we've done 150 90-minute episodes on the Fruity Knitting YouTube channel.
Yeah, it's amazing, actually.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I can still remember after the first episode thinking, oh my goodness, how are we going to do this every 2 weeks?
Yeah, and you started it 8 years ago.
Yeah, so I started Fruity Knitting 8 years ago in 2016 with my late husband, Andrew. And it did take us a few episodes to figure out what direction we wanted to go in. But over time, Fruity Knitting has really grown into an archive of information around the craft of knitting. And I did a rough count. And in total, we've done over 160 full feature interviews. And I think it's fair to say that we have covered really so many of the independent designers and yarn producers from right around the world. So it really is a big body of information. We've always tried it to make the interviews not just chit-chat, but really content-rich as well. We've also got 20 Meet the Shepherdess segments where we present a passionate sheep farmer who's producing their own yarn, often with breed-specific or rare breed fleeces, which have a really interesting story to them. And I think that's really important to get that knowledge out into the general knitting public. And we've also featured close to 80 knitters of the world from literally right around the world. And personally, I find that really exciting.
Yeah.
And we've got 13 maker segments which feature a passionate artisan crafter from outside the knitting world. So Andrew and I really worked crazy hours to build this up and make this all happen. But at the same time, we also felt super grateful because we got to meet so many interesting and inspiring people along the way. And I really do feel so proud of what he and I built up from the beginning, which was really great as a team. And then sadly, when he passed away, which is close to 4 years now, Mairlynd joined me on the couch. And I could not have continued fruity knitting without Mairlynd. And since then, she's been bringing her own fresh ideas and personality to the show. So thank you, darling.
That's all right. It's my pleasure.
I'm so grateful that she has come on board for that. But of course, none of this would be possible without you, our viewers, and in particular, our incredible patrons, because it has been your financial support that's enabled us to do all of this work and put this body of information together for everyone around the world to watch. So thank you for being part of our journey, and a special thank you to those of you who've actually been with us from the beginning for 8 years.
I know, that's crazy. We have some more exciting news, which is that we're approaching 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time to do it. And with your help, maybe we will reach those 100,000 before the end of the year.
Yeah.
That would be fun. All right, so it's time for Bring and Brag now. So Christmas is on our doorstep, basically. And while I would have loved to knit lots of garments and accessories to give away as presents to my friends and family, I just don't have the time. So unfortunately, even though I'm a knitter, most of my presents are going to be store-bought. But I did have time to knit one present for a friend who has been in and out of hospital recently. So I wanted to knit something special for her. And so because I only had a few weeks left until Christmas, I decided to knit a pair of fingerless mitts that are Christmas themed by Charlotte Stone, our feature interviewee. These are the Christmas pudding mitts. They're covered in adorable Christmas puddings, topped with icing and decorated with tiny holly branches. The red and green accents create a very festive Christmas vibe, and the border design also reminds me of those classic candy canes that you can hang on your Christmas tree. So these are my finished Christmas pudding mittens. These are the second pair of mittens I've actually ever made. My first pair were the Shine mittens by Sophia Capel from the Sophia's Tales podcast. And they're also covered in Colorwork with Latvian braids around the cuff, which is also very pretty. And I made these using leftover yarn. I wanted to do the same for the Christmas mittens. Because we've actually grown quite a substantial yarn stash over the years, I would say
leftovers mainly.
Mainly, yeah. We're pretty good with that. So I started off with this brown sock yarn, which was left over for the main colour. Then we've got white for the custard of the Christmas puddings, this sort of pinky colour for the background, and a variegated purpley, different shades of purple for the Christmas pudding, and the red and the green for the borders and the holly. Now, most of these, except for the green, are actually superwash merino, and I deliberately chose this because I can't be sure that the mittens won't end up in the washing machine, and I just wanted to make sure they're washing machine proof, although I'm going to recommend hand washing them. Anyway, with the mittens, you start off
By the way, that's the Yarvol.
Yarvol yarn, yeah. You start with a 1x1 rib on 2.5 millimeters for the cuff, and then you knit a few rounds of normal stocking stitch until you start working the thumb gusset. Now, most of you probably know what a thumb gusset is, but for newbie beginners out there, a gusset is basically a triangular piece of fabric that you insert into your garment to allow for ease of movement. So when you look at my hand, if I move my thumb out like this, the additional surface here forms an upside down triangle. And so that's why I need a gusset. And if I didn't have a gusset, my thumb would be squashed against my hand and unable to move, which is a bit dumb.
They are so festive. They're totally gorgeous.
I know, they're very cute. And here's a picture to help illustrate what I mean. After completing the cuff, you continue knitting in the round. And to make space for the thumb, you gradually increase the number of stitches on one side where your thumb would be at. And this added fabric forms an upside down triangle. When you reach the top of the triangle where your thumb separates fully from the rest of your hand, you place those increased stitches on hold and continue knitting the main body of the mitten. Finally, you return to those stitches and complete the thumb. It's really quite simple. And because these mittens are a surprise, and the person who I'm knitting them for lives quite far away, I'm actually having to guess the size of her hand. I myself have fairly large hands for a lady because I'm very tall, so I'm using Mum's hands as a reference. And Mum's measurements say that she's a size 2, so that's what I knitted. And now it turns out that both of us fit into these mittens, so I'm not too concerned about them.
They're totally beautiful and they're so festive. They're totally
they're
gorgeous.
They're nice and bright and happy.
Okay.
I'm very happy.
I have to excuse me. I woke up this morning and my neck went And so now I can't look at Mairlynd very comfortably.
Yeah.
I feel
I've heard that a lot.
Okay, so we're on to me now. And most of our long-term viewers know that I normally don't enjoy knitting socks. In fact, I think the last pair of socks that I knitted was back in 2018. Andrew used to make me hand-knitted socks because I really love wearing them, especially hiking and camping and things. And over the years, a couple of patrons have also sent me hand-knitted socks for Christmas, which was always a really wonderful surprise. And this year's no exception. Thank you, Isabel. These are a pair from Isabel they're very beautifully knitted and I really appreciate them. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and the colour's really nice as well. It's perfect for you.
Yeah, gorgeous colour. But when I started to look through Charlotte's second book, Joyful Colorwork Socks, I really couldn't resist knitting up a pair because they are so adorable. And I just want to give you a quick flip through the book now. So the book includes 25 new sock patterns and, as Charlotte says herself, for fun and whimsical footwear, featuring pets, games, food, hobbies, holidays and gardening. And I think the layout of the book is really easy. The photos of the socks are bright and clear and you can see all the details that you need to see. And I think the charts are also a really good size. And there are so many super cute designs in the book. And this is the sock design that I chose to knit. So here are my finished socks, both of them done and no second sock syndrome.
Good on you.
This design is called Home is Where You Park It. I just love Charlotte's quirky names. I think it makes knitting the socks even more fun if they've got a cute name as well. So I was instantly drawn or attracted to this design because, as you know, I really like hiking and I used to do a fair bit of camping as well. In my 20s, I did a lot of rough hiking and camping where I would carry everything on my back, a bit like you in Kyrgyzstan, with a 21 kilogram backpack, and I'd have a tent and bedding and a little cooker and food and water for 3 to 4 days. It's pretty heavy and hard going. Nowadays, I still love hiking, even in rough weather, but I much prefer to come back to a hot shower and a deliciously cooked meal, maybe even a log fire and a super cozy bed. But Charlotte designed these socks for travelling in a camper van, and they are pretty glamorous camper van socks, I have to say, but they do have all of the features that I like in a hiking sock. So we've got a heel flap and gusset here, and I love the 2x2 ribbing because that helps the sock from preventing it from stretching out too much after consecutive days of wear, which you'll do when you're hiking. And even the colour of the sock is really good to hide the sweat and the dirt, which inevitably happens with hardcore hiking and camping. And these gorgeous little retro VW camper vans will always put a smile on my face. They are so cute. So I'm going to now turn it inside out and show you a photo so you can see my floats of the Colorwork. So in the interview, Charlotte explains the importance of keeping your floats as long as possible to ensure that the sock stays stretchy enough to fit over your ankle. And I usually catch my floats every 3 to 4 stitches, so I had to keep reminding myself to space them out more. And I aimed to catch them every 7 or 8 stitches, but actually you can leave them even longer, like 9 or 10 stitches. And Charlotte explains why during the interview, so I won't say anything more about that now. So between us, we've now knitted 3 of Charlotte's designs. Mairlynd started off... sock designs. Mairlynd started off with coffee break.
Yeah, the coffee socks. And then I did the Batty for Halloween socks recently.
Which are also gorgeous.
I know, they're awesome.
And Home is Where You Park It. Great names, aren't they? Cool. And then you've also got yours. We're really having a Charlotte Stone day today.
Yeah.
With the gorgeous Christmas mittens. And I'm super excited to say that Charlotte is offering Fruity Knitting patrons a 25% discount on all her self-published sock designs available in her Ravelry store. And she has around 125 Colorwork sock designs to choose from. So there is definitely something for every personality, holiday and hobby. And browsing through her collection is not only going to be inspiring, it is also guaranteed to put a smile on your face. So we're still in Bring and Brag because we have a third finished project to show you, and I think this is a record for us. Mind you, my socks and your mitts are pretty small projects, but nevertheless we can still celebrate. I am wearing my finished version of the Do You Yoke sweater by our soon-to-be featured knitter of the world.
You look fantastic, Mum.
Thank you. The big question is, who gets this sweater? Because as you know, initially I thought this was going to be slightly too big for me, particularly around the upper yoke. But now that it's been blocked, I think it's fitting me very well. But I had given Mairlynd a lot of hope that she was going to get the sweater. So I did knit the sleeves longer than normal so that the jumper also looks good on her. They're a little bit long for me. But
looks comfy.
Yeah.
I know you prefer having it up the top, but some people really like having a long sleeve.
And I think it's nice that because normally all of my jumpers, if I want to pass them on, she looks a little bit silly and then they kind of look like...
Getting so many compliments today.
bracelet level. They're a little bit like that on her.
Yeah.
So it's much nicer that you can wear this.
Yeah.
So I'm super thrilled with how it's turned out. I also thought that maybe it might be too vibrant and bright and crazy for me, but it's not at all. I really like it. So I'm thrilled. It is a bit looser than how I normally wear my sweaters, but I think it still looks really good.
I like it because the pattern is absolutely stunning and I love the color combination. So that makes it very pretty, but for once you're wearing something that from the fit is a little bit more casual, and I actually think it suits you. So
yeah. Okay. So it's going to be my Christmas Day sweater. It's a very festive sweater. And typically when I knit a jumper, I will wear it every day for at least 2 months. So I will probably do that. I'll wear it on Christmas Day and every day after that. And then maybe I will consider giving it to you.
You should wear it out hiking along with your socks, because if you ever get lost, people will find you in that sweater.
Yeah, but that reminds me, I've got to tell you about the yarn that I use. It is cashmere. I don't know that I want to go hiking.
No, yeah, maybe not.
Okay, so a quick recap on the yarn. The main colour is 100% cashmere in the shade Dark Orchard from Pamir Fine Fibres, and they are a young Swiss company that collaborates with nomads and farmers in the mountains of Kyrgyzstan to produce really beautiful cashmere yarns. And if you want to know more about them, we interviewed them in episode 147. And the colour changing yarn used for the motif is Spin Cycle dyed in the wool, and both yarns are a sport weight. So this is Zanette's first ever mystery yoke-along, which means that the knitters will get the pattern in a series of clues and they won't really know what the design's going to look like until they're nearly finished with it. And this mystery yoke-along came out in January 2024, and I think Zanete is bringing out a new mystery yoke-along in January 2025. So maybe you want to join in the fun. And I can really recommend her designs. I've only knitted one, but this one, I mean, her designs are totally stunning. You'll be in for a surprise if you haven't seen her work before. But the pattern was very easy and, well written. All of that was very good. What I particularly love is the fabric that she produces. So she's knitting, I think, at a very slightly tighter gauge than what a lot of other designers do, from my experience. And I love that because, as you know, long-term viewers, I'm constantly changing the gauge to be slightly tighter, and then I have to rework all of the maths. And I didn't have to do that here, which is really refreshing for me.
Yeah, sit back and relax.
And I've mentioned this a few times, but a lot of her designs have beautiful colourwork motifs going down past the sleeve separation point right down here, and quite a few of them have large pattern repeats. You can see this one goes from here to here. And that can make it difficult to grade a sweater in multiple sizes. But Zanete has devised a few clever tricks so that she can do that without compromising on the beautiful motif, which she likes to use. So she's got quite a lot of followers on Instagram, but if you don't know her already, I think you're really going to love meeting her. I think she's a really exciting designer.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say that Zanete is offering Fruity Knitting patrons a 25% discount off all her self-published patterns from both her Ravelry shop and her website. And I think Ravelry says that she has around 94 designs in total, so that is a lot to choose from. So now it's time to take you to the magical Frankfurt Christmas markets. And while you're soaking in the festive atmosphere, we're going to take a sip of our mild Christmas wine, or Glühwein as the Germans call it.
Yeah, Mum's going for the proper stuff. I'm just drinking a Christmas tea.
Yeah, I want the authentic things. Straight after the Christmas markets, you'll meet our knitter of the world.
Morgen, Kinder, wird's was geben. Morgen werden wir uns freuen. Welch ein Jubel, welch ein Leben wird in unserem Hause sein. Einmal werden wir noch wach, heißer dann ist Weihnachtstag.
So we're at the Frankfurt Weihnachtsmarkt, the local Christmas market here in Frankfurt that I've been visiting since I was a little girl with my family every single year. There are Christmas markets all across Germany, but the Frankfurt Christmas market dates back to 1393, so it's quite a long time ago. And originally it did start as a simple winter market. It wasn't Christmas related. However, over the centuries, it's become more festive with lots of Christmas trees, gingerbread, and other traditional German Christmas goodies that we're going to show you today. The Frankfurter Christmas market opens every year from late November right up to Christmas, and it covers much of the city centre in Frankfurt, including the beautiful old town district known as the Römerberg, and that is where we are now. Its two most iconic highlights, in my eyes, are the towering Christmas tree and this beautiful carousel. When I was a kid, one of my favourite things about this market was riding these carousel horses. Now, the Christmas market also features a variety of musical performances. Twice a week, you'll see a brass band playing Christmas songs up on the gallery of St. Nicholas Church. And apart from that, you'll also see different Frankfurt choirs come together to sing Christmas carols throughout the weeks. Another reason to come here is to go Christmas shopping. Baking enthusiasts will find lots of wonderful and crazy cookie cutters because they come in various shapes, and I guarantee there will be a cookie cutter for every personality out there. You can also go for a classic nativity scene made from carved wood. Many of these are handmade, and I like that they come in different styles, from the more traditional and intricate to some more modern and simplistic versions. And I also like the wooden Christmas tree decorations. Coming from Australia, we never followed those typical German Christmas traditions, and in fact, my family never even bought Christmas trees. Instead, we decorated our large palm tree pot plant with all the decorations that we had in our house. But last year, we built our very own Christmas tree by tying together lots of evergreen branches that we found outside around a ladder until the ladder was no longer visible. And I have to say, I was really impressed by the end result. Next, you can buy these gorgeous Christmas pyramids, which you'll probably find in most German households at this time of year. They originate from the Ore Mountain region of East Germany and are usually decorated with some kind of nativity scene or angels. And here's how they work. You light a little candle at the base, and as the heat rises, the fan wheel starts to spin, which gets the whole carousel turning. It's a really fantastic way to entertain kids, and there's always going to be one booth that has a massive version of this sitting on their rooftop. Now, the key ingredient to the magic of a German Christmas market are definitely its foods and beverages. So we're going to start with some freshly roasted chestnuts, which you see behind me, followed by a classic German Christmas market food, the Kartoffelpuffer. Here in Germany, roasted chestnuts are usually served in a little paper bag, and you peel them open by hand. You'll find roasted chestnuts on most German Christmas markets, but apparently people were eating them as far back as 2,000 years ago in countries like China and ancient Greece. I didn't know this, so this is definitely not a strictly German tradition. So behind me is a Kartoffelpuffer stand, so a store that sells Kartoffelpuffer, which is a classic German Christmas market food. It loosely translates to puffed potato. They're basically potato cakes fried in a lot of oil. So they're not exactly healthy, but they're very delicious. And to counteract the greasiness, you want to serve it with a big portion of cold apple sauce.
Morgen, Kinder, wird's was geben. Morgen werden wir uns freuen. Welch ein Jubel, welch ein Leben wird in unserem Hause sein. Einmal werden wir noch wach. Heißer, dann ist Weihnachtstag. Wie wird dann die Stube glänzen von der großen Lichter?
So after eating a hearty meal of Kartoffelpuffer, I recommend going for some good dessert, and there are so many to choose from. These are an iconic marzipan pastry from Frankfurt called Frankfurter Bethmännchen, and they're named after the Bethmann family who lived in Frankfurt 200 years ago. Other iconic Christmas market treats are the classic gingerbread, chocolate-covered fruits, walnuts, and even chocolate-covered chilies. You can also buy candied almonds and giant chocolate-covered pretzels. They also have booths specialised in hundreds of different flavoured lollies, including flavours like honey, salted caramel, anise, raspberry, eucalypt, and so many more yummy flavours. And they are so much better than what you'll find in the supermarket. So our final stop is the Glühweinstand, where people come and gather after work or after university to meet their friends and colleagues and enjoy a glass of hot mulled wine or other hot drinks like a hot chocolate. And they always come served in these special cups here that get redesigned every single year for the Frankfurt Christmas market. But anyway, cheers. Thank you for exploring the Christmas market with us, and we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas.
O Tannenbaum, o Tannenbaum, wie treu sind deine Blätter. Du grünst nicht nur zur Sommerzeit, nein, auch im Winter, wenn es schneit. O Tannenbaum, wie treu sind deine Blätter.
Hello, my name is Zanete and I live in the UK, just outside London with my husband and 3 kids. But I was born in Latvia in the early 80s when it was still under communist rule. And knitting back then was something that people did out of necessity, not just because of the cold winters, but also because there was such a limited variety of clothes available in the stores that the only way to express your unique self was to make your own. So I grew up watching my mom knit and sew clothes for our family. My great-grandfather was also an avid knitter. He would make socks and mittens to support his family when he became a single dad of 4 after his wife passed away. And I started knitting even before I went to school. It was my grandma who taught me, and she was the strictest. She would rip out my knitting whenever there was the slightest mistake. There was no concept of yarn weight. You just got given a bowl of yarn and you hope that you can find needles that will work with it. You make a swatch and then decide what comes next. There was no access to nice or let alone luxury yarns unless you had relatives in America or Australia and they send you care packages, and sometimes they contain a store-bought knitwear that we could unravel and reknit to our liking. But because most of the time they were cut and then seamed, we'd have to tie little knots after every row, so the reknit sweater looked like a hedgehog from the inside. So knitting and sewing and also cooking was part of the school curriculum, and my mom's generation, most women understand basic garment construction and can recreate items from photos. But that all began to die out with the collapse of Soviet Union. As more and more products became available, people wanted to spend less time doing that yourself. But luckily, my mom continued, so I grew up watching her make swatches and design her own patterns on graph paper. Back then, you really wouldn't call yourself a knitter unless you knew how to design and construct the garment yourself. There were, of course, resources available in form of stitch pattern, a library, books, but no knitting patterns as we understand them in the English-speaking world today. So throughout my life, I would knit the same way my mom did, design on a graph paper, knit in pieces and then seam. But then recently I rediscovered the knitting world and I came across the top-down seamless method, and that's now become my go-to. I rediscovered the knitting world during my maternity leave with my middle boy 6 years ago, and I started posting my knits on Instagram and kept seeing comments for knitting patterns. People were asking me for a pattern, but I didn't understand because I didn't know knitting patterns were a thing. So I was quite curious to learn what that was. I went to a knitting shop and opened the knitting book, and I closed it just as quickly because the abbreviations seemed like such a gibberish to me. I didn't think I could ever understand, let alone write something in that. But the requests kept coming, so I accepted the challenge. And next time I got an idea that I thought was worthy of publishing, I wrote everything down and learned about pattern publishing. My first pattern was this cabled around yoke sweater, which is quite ambitious given most designers start with a hat or socks. But I thought I'd go easy on myself and just publish one size. And probably that is the reason why I had exactly one sale over the next 3 months. But despite the slow start, I really fell in love with the process and refused to give up and continued doing that in the background of my part-time job in technology. Through most of my knitting life, I've hated colorwork. It's down to some bad experience at school. As part of the curriculum, we had to make Latvian traditional mittens. And if there's one thing you should know about the traditional Latvian mitten is that it uses a super tight gauge, 40 to 50 stitches in 10 centimeters, and often works with more than 2 colors. So we had to use a size as 0 needles, and for some reason I wanted to work with 3 colors at the same time. So the process was a total nightmare. I kept poking my fingers to the point of bleeding, and the yarn was always a tangled mess. I didn't enjoy it one bit, and I was really happy to just get through it. I don't think I even finished both mittens. So yeah, that was my only experience, first and only experience with colorwork for majority of my life. And then in 2020, as I was watching a lot of YouTube and rediscovering the knitting world, I came across the Fruity Knitting podcast, and it featured a lot of beautiful stranded knitting. And I decided then and there that this was the year when I'll finally face my fear of the colorwork. And I bought a book by a famous stranded knitwear designer, hoping that it will reintroduce me to the technique and open up new possibilities. And then I opened the book, and most of the garments were knit flat in pieces and then seamed. And by this point, I was fully on board of the top-down and seamless, and I was not going back. And I was nowhere near ready to purl colorwork, so I had to close the book and just design my own. So after a few days of practicing mindfully, finding a way to hold the yarn so that it doesn't get tangled, and it was a normal gauge, and I figured out how to manage the tension so that it's nice and smooth, and I discovered that I really loved it. I really like colorwork, and it kicked off a whole series of colorwork patterns. And the first one was this Pagan Sky. It was actually a submission to a knitting magazine that got rejected. So I almost didn't publish it. but then I changed my mind and did. And the name comes from the things that are in it. So I've combined elements from Latvian folklore and mythology. Our ancestors worshipped things like the celestial entities like the sun and the moon and the stars. And I found all of them in this little book that my grandma gave me. She had saved it from a sure destruction in the Soviet times because anything that celebrated Latvian identity was to be burnt. So she risked her job at the library and also her freedom actually to preserve it. I think she had to rip off the original covers, hence the handmade version. But I found all of these elements here, so I drew inspiration from Austraskoks, which is the tree of life. It connects the three realms of the world of the living, the world of dead, and the world to come. And I filled it with various depictions of the sun and the stars, as they would frequently be seen on the Latvian national dress. And I loved combining and taking the elements from the traditional costume and adapting them into something contemporary. But for me to reflect all of that, I would need a lot more space than just the top of the yoke. So I extended the colorwork way past sleeve separation, and all of a sudden I have got a lot more room and a lot more freedom to express. So that has now become my tradition for all colorwork sweaters. I designed this one in 6 sizes, but each size has its own chart, its own drawing, so that I could ensure the pattern repeats didn't change and the symmetry remained. So essentially it's a 6-in-1 pattern. Another colorwork sweater inspired by Latvian signs is dedicated to the sign of Zalktis, a grass snake, and here it appears as it would be woven into a belt. A woven belt is also a important part of the Latvian national dress. It's a top-down, but this time a raglan construction, which is quite rare in the colorwork sweater world because of the challenges that it presents with grading. And I've tackled that by making the chart infinitely repeatable and then provided a clear framework using the raglan lines and introducing a fake seam at the sides and under the sleeve here to provide breaks. And then the challenge becomes simply figuring out which chart stitch each section for each size should begin with and how that changes as more stitches are introduced in each section. To get the hang of it, I would recommend printing the chart. As you can see, the pattern repeat is quite huge, and drawing some lines on it for your size so you don't get lost. But this approach lets me offer a wide range of sizes, and it allows knitters who want to make modifications such as introduce waist shaping or increase the yoke depth to do these very easily. And I just wanted to also mention my latest Latvian inspired colorwork sweater. It was created with a few partners, and we released it as a mystery yoke along in 4 clues, so nobody knew what they were knitting, but it was a hit, and we even had a virtual fashion show at the end, and we're planning to do it again next year. So I really got into colorwork. As a mom of 2 young, really energetic boys, I was looking for any chance to have a moment to myself, and the colorwork yokes really brought me all the rewards. So I ended up designing a whole series called a Yoke Meditation series, which helped me escape and get lost in the zone. They are inspired by things like Buddhist mandalas, and they have deep running and symmetrical color work. And what brought it to another level, the whole experience, was choosing to work with color changing yarns that I had hand spun myself. And because you don't know how the colors will play out, it brings a whole other level of intrigue, and I felt like I'm really painting with yarns. There are currently four patterns in the collection. I've given most of them away because the purpose was just to get lost in the knitting and experience that. And when it's done, it's done. This one's the only one left. There is the weights range from sport weight to worsted weight, and there are round yokes, there's a raglan, and there's also a steeked cardigan because the pattern repeat for that one was so huge that for a set of sizes, there just wasn't enough space to fit full repeats. So the workaround that I chose was to use the cardigan opening as a natural break that then let me to use partial repeats here at the sides. Initially, I wasn't into socks at all. I couldn't figure out why anyone would bother, but then it all changed when I saw a photo of a all-over stranded colorwork sock with a sole gusset, and I was hooked. And since then, I've discovered two things that I really love about sock knitting, and one is that it's an extremely portable project, and secondly, it's a great way to pack a lot of new techniques to try out and get quick rewards. In that way, I can keep the knitters engaged in my patterns as well. I've even started a series back in 2022 when my friends and I visited the Barcelona Knits Festival. One of them had an idea that we should all make matching socks with the yarns that we bought, and because I was the designer of the group, I got to lead the way. And now we've got 8 or 9 socks inspired by the places that we visited. And it all began with a toe-up sock with a sole gusset, that said sole gusset, and a slip stitch heel flap. There are socks with cables, with twisted stitches, and all over colorwork socks, but each pair offers something new and different to try out, and I'm experimenting with a variety of heel techniques and methods to perfect the construction. I guess the most interesting one is the London Memory Socks that was inspired by a Knit in Public Day event in London. A lady behind me on the bus was working on a tube sock, and she said she was going to add the heel later when there was less social activities going on around her. It's the so-called afterthought heel, and because I had heard that it doesn't really fit well, I hadn't really considered it for my designs. And this time I had to accept and give myself a challenge to design an afterthought heel that does fit well. And this is it. It's a toe-up sock where the afterthought heel takes the form of a Dutch heel. It is a fiddly project. It's a fun experiment, and it definitely fits well. The Dublin Memory Socks is another toe-up sock that introduces a round toe. It's in fact the go-to toe shape for Latvian knitters, but most of the time socks in Latvia are knit cuff down, so it's interesting to swap it around. Unravel Memory Socks is an all-over colorwork sock pattern, a toe-up one that where I first introduced having more stitches in the leg than the foot, because colorwork isn't so stretchy and it can be very difficult to get the ankle to pass through if you still want the foot to fit so snugly. So having more stitches in the leg solves that problem. And Vita Memory Socks is a cuff down pattern, but it still has that awesome sole gusset. And there are so many more places to visit and many, many more things and techniques to learn, which only means more memory socks. Since I rediscovered knitting 6 years ago through social media and YouTube channels like Fruity Knitting, it's been my escape, which is super important when you're a busy mom or your world is generally hectic. And I thought I was an experienced knitter before, but it turns out I knew precisely one cast on method, one bind off method, one way to knit a sweater and one way to knit a sock. And if you go through my patterns in chronological order, you'll notice that there's something new, a new detail in every one. It's very likely something that I've just come across and just learned and wanted to try right away. The moment I came across the seamless knitting, I went in the absolute extreme. I avoided seaming at all costs, even if it meant compromising on the neatness of the final look or making things a lot more complicated. But I've learned my lesson. Now knitters say they enjoy working from my patterns because there's always something new to discover. I've even invented a few things, like a very nice tubular bind-off for a 2x2 rib, or that Dutch afterthought heel, and a knitted imitation of a crochet granny square. But some things have become standard. I always do a top down and seamless whenever possible. I add fake seams to the body and sleeves of each garment to improve the structure. And stranded colorwork has got to go beyond sleeve separation to give us more of what we love. Japanese short rows are my absolute favorite, and I love using lifted increases for the decorative look. And one row buttonholes you can't beat. And whenever possible, I strive to include multiple options for knitters in my patterns, such as a pullover and steeked cardigan in one, a sleeveless and sleeved option, or customizable neck widths, etc. And because there's never going to be a time when I know everything about knitting, as it's such an old and worldwide skill, there's still so much more for me to discover and add to my upcoming designs. I hope you come and learn with me. And thanks so much for listening to my story.
Welcome back. I've been reading through the comments beneath our last episode, and I just wanted to say thank you for being such a positive and encouraging bunch of people, because you leave very nice comments below there. So thank you for that. I do feel like the knitting community is overwhelmingly positive on YouTube compared to some other YouTube branches out there. I also love how global the knitting community is, and in a sense I feel like Fruity Knitting is quite a worldwide effort because the guests that we feature on the show come from all across the world. They live in different countries. And then you, our viewers, are really spread all across the globe and sometimes live in the most interesting places. Like one of our patrons works as a nurse in the Arctic Circle of Canada. So she works out in the most remote spots. And recently I talked to a viewer who for years led a research center in the Costa Rican jungle. So I just find this global connection really exciting.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and especially when we get to meet some of you in person or during our online live events. And we actually feature 2 online live events per month for our Shetland patrons, either a chat session where we all get together and chat, ask questions about our projects and just show our progress.
Give each other helpful advice.
That's right. And of course there's regulars there, which is really nice. So you get to build up a bit of a community, or we get to meet a special guest who we've previously featured on the show here. And in fact, our next guest is Melanie Berg, who will join us on the 5th of January, 2025. And if you haven't watched our last episode yet, Melanie is a German knitwear designer known for her fantastic shawl designs. And she also recently published a book called Sweaters. Now, our Shetland and Merino patrons can leave their questions for Melanie before the event on our Patreon page. And while Shetland patrons have the option to join us live, both Shetland and Merino patrons can also listen to this event as an audio podcast at a later date. Over the past months, Patreon has made some really nice changes to their mobile phone app to make it very user-friendly. So it's very easy to find our content and listen to our live events on your phone. We currently have around 100 audio podcasts available for our Merino and Shetland patrons to listen to, and most of them are filled with really great technical information and not just chit-chat about the designers' lives or their thoughts.
Although we have a little bit of that and it's fun.
Yeah, that too. But we try to keep it content rich.
And Newfoundlanders caught on to that, and they wanted to do fancy knitting. So it was the beehive pattern books after, say, World War II, between the 50s and the 80s, where Newfoundlanders started knitting with fine beehive yarns and Angora yarns. They loved knitting with Aran sweaters, Farrow pullovers and cardigans.
And in addition to our live events, all of our patrons get special discounts from the guests that we've featured on our show. And we like to organise these patron benefits just to say thank you for supporting Fruity Knitting financially. However, even if these patron benefits don't interest you, please still support the show financially, because ultimately becoming a Fruity Knitting patron is not just for the patron benefits. It's really to support this podcast so we can continue bringing you new episodes. So it's really easy to sign up. The link is in the description box below. You can go to patreon.com/fruityknitting to become a Hebridean, a Merino or a Shetland patron. Thank you so much for your attention and for supporting the show. Now it's time for Under Construction with me. So a few episodes ago, I mentioned that I really wanted to knit a Colorwork Yoke sweater for my boyfriend, and that the design that he really likes is unfortunately knitted bottom up instead of top down, which just isn't ideal for knitting a Colorwork Yoke sweater. So this is the sweater. It's the male version of the Wade Rundfeld by Rauma Designs. Knitting Colorwork yokes from the bottom up can be a little bit tricky if your row gauge doesn't match the recommended row gauge. But with a top-down construction, you knit the yoke first before spending time on the sleeves and the body. And if your row gauge is slightly off, you can easily fix it by adding or removing rows before dividing for the arms and the body. So I hadn't ordered the yarn yet and I wasn't completely fixed on this design, so I asked you, our viewers, if you could recommend any gorgeous men's Colorwork yoke sweaters with a top-down construction. And there were so many great suggestions. Thank you very much for sending in emails or commenting beneath the video. And I just wanted to mention a few of them in case some of you are also looking for inspiration for men's Colorwork sweaters. Now, Kendra on YouTube recommended the Alpenglow sweater, the men's version, by Andrea Mowry, who is, I think, quite well known for her colourful designs, and she often uses mosaic knitting. And Mum actually interviewed Andrea Mowry back in episode 33.
Yeah, a very long time ago.
Yeah, so go back and watch that if you don't know the interview yet. So this is the Alpenglow sweater. There is a female and a male version. It's knitted top down, which is good, in the round and in one piece. I find it very elegant and subtle for a Colorwork sweater, but at the same time it is exciting from a technical perspective as it uses many different Colorwork techniques, including stranded Colorwork around the yoke, mosaic knitting for the body, and corrugated ribbing along the hem. And I also like that the collar is doubled over, which just gives it a very cozy look. However, for some reason, my boyfriend wasn't convinced by this sweater, so we had to keep looking. So then came October and we flew to Canada to cover the Prince Edward Island Fibre Festival, and naturally we also had to go and visit the Fleece and Harmony store, where Kim, the owner, showed me this book called Viking Knits, which she keeps in her shop. And it's basically a book of classic Scandinavian designs, knitwear designs, including lots of men's sweaters. The designer also goes by Viking Knits, but his real name is Lasse Mattberg, and he is a model, an internet personality, and a fitness instructor. But he also comes from a long line of handcrafters and recently published this knitting book. The sweater that particularly stood out to me was the Tinder, which means peak in Norwegian. And I just think it looks really nice and easy and perhaps good for someone who's not used to receiving hand-knitted jumpers. However, it's also knitted bottom up, so not quite what I was looking for. And again, for some reason, my boyfriend was not convinced. And then another YouTube commenter recommended a designer called Maxime Zir, or Sire, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. He goes by Max the Knitter. And Maxime is a children's book author, illustrator, and passionate knitwear designer. And you do see his background in illustration in some of his designs, which often feature sort of colorwork motifs like plants or animals. I think he's especially well known for his For Fox's Sake sweater, which I think is really cute. When I browsed his Ravelry page, I came across his Nightfall sweater and found this one particularly classy. It's knitted top down, so that's great, and in the round with stranded colourwork for the yoke, cuffs and hem. The colourwork looks really fun to knit, and actually my boyfriend this time was very excited about the design as well, so we thought we would be going with this one. However, after all of this back and forth, I ended up going full circle and choosing the Wade Rundfeld after all, so the original design.
You have to be careful with boyfriend jumpers. You have to put a lot of care and effort into them.
I know, they have to be perfect. You have to set a good precedent so they want more. Anyway, so without going into all of the details, it came to this decision because I really, really wanted to use this Finnoil yarn, which is a specific yarn from Rauma. Just to tell you a bit of background about this yarn, I first came across it when we travelled to Sweden for Sophia Capel's wedding. And after a few days later, Sophia took me to a local yarn store that was packed full of Rauma yarns. So Rauma is, I think, a Norwegian brand.
It's very well priced. It's slightly scratchy, but it's great and beautiful colours.
Yeah, gorgeous colours. It's well priced and just nice and rustic. It's my type of yarn. And so I went and bought myself a sweater's quantity worth of this gorgeous green. And then Mum comes to me and says, why don't you use this for the main sweater of, for the main colour of Ryan's sweater? And I wasn't sure that it would actually suit him really well because I want the sweater to look stunning on him. And also I want this for myself. I'm knitting a cardigan out of this.
So we invited him over for dinner, sat him on a chair.
Yeah, and we spent ages holding all these different coloured sweaters against his face to find out what type of
complexion he has.
Yeah. I think he enjoyed the attention.
In the end, we decided he might be a spring.
Yeah, that's right. Because he looked really good in Mum's hiking jacket, which is like a bright blue.
Yeah.
You can find it on Ravelry if you don't know which one we're talking about. Yeah, but even stronger. Yeah. So anyway, that's why I decided to go with this beautiful bright blue for the main colour. And then I'm going to add this navy blue, a light grey, and a speck of lime green for the contrast on the yoke.
Super cool.
I think it's super cool. Yeah, Mum was a little bit worried that this could be too bright for his taste, but I think he looks stunning in it. And I talked with him. I think he's okay with wearing a bright sweater.
You just have to give him a ton of compliments when he's wearing it.
That won't be a problem. So while picking out these colours, we paid attention to the colour value, which describes how dark or light a colour is, and it's really important for colourwork sweaters. We learned all about this in episode 147 when Mum interviewed Sandra Ahud from Voimoshi, and you're also going to hear it mentioned once or twice in the upcoming interview with Charlotte Stone. So as you can see, I haven't actually made much progress yet because I have been mainly working on the Christmas mittens. And also I decided, because it's knitted bottom up instead of top down, to start with a provisional cast on, which I made by crocheting a simple chain stitch and then knitting into it, because I think that's the easiest method. It's pretty darn massive.
Looks huge.
It's really big, and you can see it's not tight, it's sort of pushed together. It's going to be a very wide jumper.
It looks scarily big, but when you actually put it around like this, you've got to think, he's bigger than you.
Yeah.
And this is going to go around a sleeve here, across this, and a sleeve there. And he wants it to have a little bit, you can't have a fairly thick jumper that's really tight and fitting. He's got to have some ease. So it should be all right.
I'm going to get one of his well-fitting sweaters and just measure it next to it to see that
it does look scarily big.
Yeah.
To start off with, that's
true. But
true.
the colour's pretty.
It's going to be great.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're probably wondering what I'm knitting on. This is connected to our Pura Vida knitting retreats in Costa Rica next February. So we're hosting them together with Claudia Quintanilla. And this is her design, and the participants for the retreat will all, as part of their gift bag, will all receive the design and the yarn to knit it. And I'm just knitting mine up early, so hopefully I'll be able to wear mine there.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, so gorgeous colors I'm using here. So it's very Costa Rican colors. So very sea green and sky blue against sort of cream. So it should be very beautiful.
And this is a cotton yarn, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a cotton merino.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking forward to that. That's for our retreats in February next year, 2025 in Costa Rica. Okay, coming up now is our wonderful interview with Charlotte Stone. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And we have to say goodbye to you now, but we wish you a very Merry Christmas with your family and your friends and a really fantastic New Year. And we'll look forward to seeing you in January.
Yeah, thank you so much for spending time with us. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, it's a good day for singing a song, and it's a good day for moving along. Yes, it's a good day. How could anything be wrong? A good day from morning till night. And it's a good day for shining your shoes, and it's a good day for losing the blues. Everything to gain and nothing to lose. A good day from morning till night. I said to the sun, good morning, sun. Rise and shine today. You know you gotta get going if you're gonna make a showing. And you got the right of way. 'Cause it's a good day for paying your bills, and it's a good day for curing your ills.
Welcome to Fruity Knitting. I am so thrilled to have Charlotte Stone join us again. Mairlynd and I first met Charlotte in 2022 at the Swiss Yarn Festival, where we interviewed her about her debut book, Charming Colorwork Socks. And this book quickly became an international bestseller. And since then, Charlotte's become a good friend, and I can say that her sock designs truly do reflect her vibrant personality. They are colourful, playful, and cosy. And you don't mind me calling you cosy.
That's okay.
And this year, Charlotte has released a new book, Joyful Colorwork Socks, featuring 25 patterns inspired by the simple joys of life, such as pets, food, gardening, holidays and parties, so all the good things in life. And this new book isn't just a collection of really gorgeous and humorous sock patterns, it also includes an entire section dedicated to teaching you how to design your own sock motifs using Charlotte's methods. And she's going to show us a little bit today on how to do that. So I'm so super excited about it. And thank you so much for being on Fruity Knitting a second time.
Thank you so much for inviting me again.
So for the viewers who don't know your work, can you briefly introduce yourself and then say what inspires your original colourwork motifs and also how you ensure that they're both artistic and easy to knit?
So, my name's Charlotte Stone. Thank you for the introduction. I'm the creator and designer behind Stone Knits. And my speciality or passion is designing original colourwork sock motifs, original colourwork socks. So I do use traditional motifs as well, but I really like to create something totally new that we've not seen in knitted socks before. So for example, this summer I did a jellyfish, which, I like to do something totally original and that kind of
unexpected.
Yeah, that's what inspires me. But the difficulty with that can be is with a sock, you only have a certain number of stitches, especially if you want to kind of repeat the motif round so you can do lots of different sizes. So you have to be really careful with every stitch in the design. So you want it to look like what you're trying to make and you want it to be knittable too.
Yeah.
And you like things like I use dots to break up the floats. We don't have really long floats, but you've got to be careful with those dots. Sometimes it doesn't make the design look messy or wrong.
And I also think that you're a little bit like a cartoon drawer because every single stitch has to count. So that means you have to do one little line or one little movement has to mean a lot.
Yes, so to kind of make it 3D and pop. So for example, with the new 25 patterns, this one, fashion is my passion. So kind of like a cartoon, I really wanted the mouth to stand out, and I tried to do it where it was just all, just a pink blob, but it looked like a blob. I wanted
Yeah.
a 3D.
Yeah.
So I used the white of the background to kind of like create space here. So it kind of looks like it's going like that.
It's got a little bit of Botox.
Exactly.
But that's exactly right. It has. And the black as well gives it that depth. I think they're super cool. It's
Yeah.
just a simple black line and a white line, but it does
Really
something magical to it.
makes it pop off your sock.
Yeah.
So, and then I try to be very careful. I use no more than 3 colours because otherwise you're going to create quite a non-stretchy sock.
Yeah.
So, so with this one, this is called Polly Wants a Cracker, and with this one, I didn't want to do lots of floats or lots of dots to break up the floats because otherwise it's going to distract from the parrot. But I didn't want to make it so difficult for you to knit with long floats. So it was kind of a real juggling act doing colour work and then adding some duplicate stitch because I know duplicate stitch can also put people off. So I'm kind of proud of that one because he is, they are bright and colourful.
And absolutely looks like a parrot.
Yeah.
And they sort of look like they're waddling when they're walking, and you've just captured that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's great.
And the thing is what I love too about actually being able to write books and publish books is I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media. Not every knitter is on social media. So I like being able to reach another audience who can go buy a book or go get the book out the library, and can knit these patterns too.
But you're also so good on social media, so you're really covering all bases, aren't you?
Yeah, trying to infect the world with my
with colourful socks.
So, and the other thing I love about designing socks in particular is that you can be creative and as wacky as you like because it's on your feet, it's on your ankles. You could be a lawyer or a doctor and you can wear
a little bit of humour.
Yeah,
around
express your personality. Yeah, humour around your ankles.
That is really true because you can be very sort of sophisticated or neutral.
Yeah.
And then just have a little peak of colour and something unexpected down the bottom.
On your feet.
Yeah, that's super, super cool. Okay, so knitters are always eager to see new designs, myself included. And this new book is divided into 5 chapters, each with its own theme, as I sort of mentioned. So let's get in and have a look at some sock designs from each chapter.
So with this book, I wanted to focus on things that bring us joy and are joyful. I didn't want like joyful colourwork socks, we must be happy, but basically I know like life can sometimes be difficult and hard.
Very challenging.
And I wanted
little pick-me-ups.
Yes, little pick-me-ups, like little chocolates you can dive into when you're
feeling low
and you want to spark a bit of joy to make life feel a bit easier if that's possible. So I chose 5 different themes, as you said, and the first one I chose was pets because I personally love pets and I think a lot of knitters have pets, but I did choose things that weren't just fur.
Yes, I love the fact that you say also people who are allergic can enjoy them.
Right, exactly. I didn't want to put anyone off. So the first, the cover pattern is perfect socks, and I really wanted to focus on
purr, as in
purr.
Yeah,
I really wanted to focus on cat faces on this one, and the editor said, okay, these have to be the front cover because you love cats. A lot of people know that, and this is going to be the front cover. And
like your signature ones,
yes. And I said, but some people hate cats, and my editor said, Charlotte, do you want people who hate cats to buy your book?
But if you do hate cats, you still can
Please
buy them.
There are a lot of other patterns.
Because there are some people who like dogs and some people who like cats.
Exactly.
But you've catered for everybody.
Yes, so the one I'm also very proud of is the Who Let the Dogs Out.
I love your names.
Thank you. I love creating them. So these ones I wanted... the problem with dogs is they're all different shapes and sizes. Yeah. It's almost like they're all different species.
Yeah.
So I really went all out and tried to do 7 different motifs for the dogs. So I put all the dogs onto the socks. But what I suggest in the book, and what I think some people will do, is say you've got a Chihuahua or you've got a Poodle or Golden Retriever, you just choose the motif of your dog.
Yes.
And
then
create
cover the sock with that.
with your dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
although I do love all the different colours.
yeah, same here. I thought it was, and you'll never get bored knitting these because they're all different.
I think they're fantastic. And I love the green, the bright grass green background.
Yes, like they're running around in a field.
Yeah.
That was
excellent.
That was the idea behind
Okay.
that one. So one where you, if you're allergic to fur, but I like this one a lot. The Fintastic socks, and these have goldfish on them.
They are so good. Your
Now,
colours are brilliant.
With this one, I really wanted the eyes to pop. So I duplicate stitched the fish eye. Now, the test knitters, some of them didn't want to do the duplicate stitch, which is totally fine, and they just used the main colour for the eye. But I kind of like the way the black makes
and it's
it
actually not that
pop.
much. You've only got 3 levels of fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the colours, and I love the yarn that you've
Thank-
used, because
thank you.
the yarn makes it sort of look like it's been painted.
Yeah, I had this yarn from my friend Trey Liz, who hand dyes yarn, and I just thought, wow, it's so many different colours. It's like the goldfish are swimming in the sun and in the water.
These neon colours, they are gorgeous.
Thank you.
I think they'll be super popular.
Thanks a lot. So then the next chapter was gardening.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of knitters like gardening, going outside in nature. I don't actually have a garden, I have a balcony, but I love pottering around, pretending I know what I'm doing. So now these were the first design that I did for the entire book, and they're called Full Bloom socks.
My goodness.
So these were inspired kind of by 1970s hippie, big, retro blooms. And
and these bubbles.
yeah, I wanted sort of 3D big mohair fluffy 70s bubbles at the top, but this was quite difficult. First of all, just the placement to make it look like a flower, and then also mohair kind of makes that quite not very stretchy.
Yeah.
So we had to basically I had to go up a needle size and work out the gauge so it would work.
And this one was your first sock design, but it actually took you quite a long time.
It took me such a long time.
Were you scared that
I was so
you weren't going to
scared.
finish the book?
I was because it was the first one, and I was so struggling with it. I really the success from the first book.
The egg, the chicken and egg
the
ones.
chicken and the egg one.
That's right. Charlotte had an egg yolk,
an egg toe.
an egg toe.
So I thought, okay, well, this is going to be easy. I'm going to do a big flower toe, so it looks like a flower on the end of your foot. And I thought, I'm just going to kind of follow what I did with the fried egg, but the fried egg looks like a fried egg. So I had to really kind of go back to the drawing board and make it really look like a daisy at the end of your toe. So, yeah, initially I was like, I can't write this second book.
Because there's a lot of back and forward, wasn't there, between test knitters and editors
and the tech editor too. So but we
for
got
the
through
first
this.
3 months you spent it on the first design, and then
I was like 24 more.
okay.
So another one that caused me trouble, but I love now. So these are the very well named "Don't Bug Me" socks. Based on ladybirds in the gardening section, and they kind of did bug me. Designing
and we've got these
some
charts
failed
here.
attempts.
I think we're going to see the progression of success.
Yes.
So
we started off, I started off with I wanted kind of big ladybirds, but it just didn't, like, he's got tiny little legs. He's out of proportion. He's just I did not like that at all. So I was trying to make it easy as well and have 2 colours, but I didn't. So I went more with them all kind of near each other, so it's easy to knit and smaller and cute. And I kind of liked the shape, but it was just a bit ugly when I knitted it up. They were all kind of too close, and it was too busy.
And it wasn't quite clear what it actually was.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
I can see that.
So then I did actually design them. The next stage, I designed them like this, with no floats in between them, which it worked out well, and the tech editor was like, yeah, that works well. But then the testers, about 50% of them said they're too tight. They're too tight.
And even your long-term testers who, if they have problems.
It was them who were having problems. I thought, I can't release this pattern and put it into the book, and then 50% of people can't get them over their heel. It would be horrible. So I added some dots, but then we knitted them with the dots. I have a photo of the testers have knitted one like that and then one with the dots, and it just didn't look very nice. And actually, one of the test knitters' knitting groups, they kind of did a vote on which one they prefer, and they preferred this one.
They're quite powerful, aren't they, test knitters?
They are, but you have to. You need to listen to them.
Yeah, I know, and they can give you so much helpful.
Yeah, I love it when they're honest, and then I can really change it so everyone gets a good knitting experience. Yeah. So I went back and I basically changed the gauge. I made the gauge bigger. We went up the needle size, and then everyone could knit them. Everyone could fit them on their feet, and that's the final.
And they've got a brilliant name. Don't bug me.
And they did bug me, but they are.
And the test knitters for a while.
Yes.
Okay, they're great. So what are we up to now? What chapter?
So now we're on the holidays chapter, which in my last book I think very popular. I know that Mairlynd knitted the I'm Batty for Halloween socks from Charming Colorwork socks. So with this one I've tried to do different holidays. I've got Halloween because I really do love Halloween, and we've got St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day. But the one I think I know a lot of people will want to knit is Known Place Like Home. And this one's kind of celebrating like the little Christmas elves. I've seen the test knitters did different versions with Christmas colours too, but I like these kind of bright
they're great.
And also I've written in the book an option to do the stitch as a tiny bobble.
Oh, for the nose. How cute.
So it sticks out. But I suggest you do it on the leg. Maybe you don't want to tread on noses.
No. That's true. They've got to fit in your shoes.
So, yeah.
That's a great idea. Just a couple, the first two rows.
Yeah.
Have noses.
I thought that would be
That's
that
super
would be fun.
cute.
So that's an option.
Okay.
In the book. So.
And I'm always amazed about the colours. They all stand out brilliantly.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted joyful, happy, bright socks. So the next one was I did a chapter on parties, and I know a lot of us are introverted as knitters, but it's good to
don't like people.
Don't like people. But I thought it's good to get out and have a community.
It's good therapy to meet other people occasionally.
Yes, exactly. So these are the socks celebrating that, and I think the one that I love, very personal to me from my British roots, is the Fancy a
Have a cup of tea.
These socks, and they're so I did the old-fashioned kettles at the top, and then teacups at the end, and I thought
totally brilliant. I love the
fun.
kettles.
Yeah. So that I love
gorgeous.
Those.
Okay.
And then so I had another one that caused a little bit of problem.
You can see how much she works to make her patterns brilliant.
I really want them to look like how they should. So these ones you can't have a party without a cake. So these are the birthday cupcake socks. And these caused a bit of trouble too. And I really wanted them to look like cupcakes. I didn't want to copy anything off the internet. I wanted to do it myself and get it right. So
okay. So we've got some new charts here, and you can show us your progression
attempts again. It's good. You learn. You do learn from your mistakes.
Yeah. Okay.
So I really wanted the icing, like whipped icing on the top. So I did this, and it just didn't look right to me. And then I was kind of really like wanting the detail. I wanted like chocolate, and then the cake wrapper. But it was in the 16 stitches. It's a weird number for the motif, and it wasn't doing it.
Yeah, and that looks a little bit like a flag, doesn't it?
No.
What did you have in mind?
I don't know what I was. I wanted the bit of the icing.
The icing to flop over.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was in my head. No. So I did it again, still 16 stitches. I wasn't giving up.
So here's a bit finer. That looks good.
I was trying to, and the cake is, no.
But it's still better than that.
Yes, exactly. It's progressing.
Yeah.
It is progressing. So, here I've gone, okay, 12 stitches, back to the basics, but I think it's too basic.
And it's upside down now, right?
Yes, because I think I knitted that one. Because I always design, I'll speak more about how I design them. But I always design them so they're the right way up, but we knit them
upside down. Of course
because
we do, yeah.
Them all being from the cuff down. So this one, I've still kept the chocolate. It's very, very basic. And I was like, no, it's not special enough. I'm not...
But I like this bit. That's
the cherry.
Sort of developed on from this.
I've given up with the icing. We've gone with a cherry. So, and then we're nearly there. But I was worried that this, so I'll go that way.
Yeah.
I was worried this looked a bit like the ice cream socks in my other book.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want it to look ice cream like, I want it a cupcake. So basically, this is the final one. And I kind of made it less ice cream like.
Yes.
And as I was knitting it, I realised there needed to be like a dot to help break up.
It looks totally delicious, and I really like that you've used these variegated yarns here. You can really use variegated yarns to your advantage because they look like painting, don't they?
Yeah, they look, yes, exactly. Yeah. And they look, I think, more like 3D.
Not so flat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's shading.
Yeah. Beautiful. Don't they look so edible? And it's so good to see your drawing because, when you look at that, it looks plain, but it actually translates into something that's really alive. But you have to be able to see that, don't you?
Yeah, as you're doing it, definitely. Yeah. And sometimes I'll draw it and I think, that's good, knit it up.
And it's not.
Yeah, and you've got to just let it
go.
So the last chapter I did was hobbies. Of course, knitting is our favourite hobby, but, we do have some other interests. So I did all sorts of different things, like there's games and there's Space Invaders, and then I did the tarot card box.
So when we get too upset, we can just pull out some happy cards.
Right, exactly. And I chose the 3 best cards you can get.
This is hilarious. I love this.
So I'm quite proud of these ones because, so the 3 best cards are the Sun, the Star, and the Wheel of Fortune.
Okay, do you know what they mean?
Oh gosh, they're all very good luck.
They're all very and everything's going to work out well. Right, your knitting is perfect.
So wear these, and good luck will come. I don't know. So, but the thing with these, they're very different to the other ones because we've got big motifs on one side and on the other side the same. Kind of like how a mitten, isn't it, with the border down the side. So I could kind of get more detail in. I got a lovely happy sun face. Initially did it with his eyes closed, and I thought that looks like the moon. I need them open. So but the thing I was proud of with these is that they are still 3 sizes, even though it's not a repeating motif. I've just added stitches or taken away stitches.
That's tricky,
on the side.
Yeah. Okay, well done. And they are like a mitten when you see it like this and realise how you've thought about it and constructed it.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. I've been eyeing these with the camper van, the 70s camper van. I reckon I'm going to knit them. Yeah. They are so cool.
They're a really fun one. They're quite easy to knit.
I really love the drawing of what you've done there.
I know some people love camping. I thought, I'm not that keen on camping, but I think I could handle a camper van. And they look cool. So
they look super cool. They don't look like they have a shower and a toilet in them. So maybe they're a little bit rough for you.
Right. Hopefully they've stopped at a luxury campsite or something. So.
They are super gorgeous.
Thank you.
And I like the fact that it's ribbing down here.
Yeah, I wanted kind of like cosy.
Yeah,
camping,
like a hiking sock.
Hiking, in the woods.
Excellent. Okay, so is that duplicate stitch, the little black, or not?
No, that actually, it works. It works because it's got, but there's not such a great gap. It did actually work. I didn't have to stitch it on. Okay, fantastic designs. They're all so inspiring. And it has actually been 2 years since
the charming Colorwork Socks book was published.
Yeah.
And many knitters have knitted your socks and also given you a lot of feedback since then, which has also helped you to further refine your skills and deepen your knowledge.
Yes, definitely.
So can you share some of the new advice, which is in the new book, especially about how to choose the right colour combinations to make these motifs really come alive? Because it's all about that too, I think.
So yes, I feel like I've learned a lot from teaching workshops. I've done an online tutorial series. I receive a lot of questions as well. Like I learn a lot from beginners who are asking me questions of what I actually need to teach and share. So one of the main questions is about colour, and how do you choose the colours? How do you get them so you can really see the motifs and make it work? And I actually, from my own mistake, I learnt with the crunching carrot socks. I initially went ahead and knit them with a kind of darker orange, which was from Knit Picks. These are all from Knit Picks, the colours. And
because you like to keep the same yarns generally, don't you?
Yeah, so it's easier for people to get hold of the yarns. So I tried to keep it all with Knit Picks. And I used this darker orange, and I started knitting them at night. And I've put this in the book. Don't start using new colours at night, because it doesn't. You can't see what's going on. And I thought, oh, it's a bit dark, but I'm sure in the daylight it'll work. And the next day, I couldn't really see the carrots. So I took a photo, which I should have done at the beginning before I'd started, and did the grayscale,
turn it into black and white. Yeah.
And you couldn't see the carrots; they were invisible.
So we'll make this a black and white photo now. And you can see the contrast.
Yeah, it really works. This brighter orange that I use really pops.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, Knit Picks have just released a brighter orange, which would work perfectly.
Okay, so there you go. You can go back to using the same
brand,
brand
if you wish.
But yeah, that really shows it very clearly.
Yeah.
And
so another one that, again, this was something that I learnt whilst designing these socks. These are called Melodrama. And I wanted like a summer party watermelon sock. So I started off with like summery colours. I thought, well, you need pale yellow. You don't want to wear. So I thought summer with these, and I did 3 colour work here, and so they're quite tricky to knit. And I had a test knitter again.
One of these powerful test knitters.
You have to listen to them. They're amazing, and they knit it with 2 colours and use the black, but with brighter colours.
Okay.
So I took their idea and I got my own kind of bright neon colours.
And this is so much better than this, if you don't mind me saying.
No, it is. It like pops. It's
fantastic.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's easier to knit. It's just 2 colours in a row. So simple. And very wearable. I think sometimes neon colours can be just like too much. But
that's totally true. That's what Mairlynd said before. She was saying that a sock in a bright neon colour can just be over the top.
A bit much.
But with this charcoal grey, they look stunning.
Yeah.
And they look so fresh and edible.
Yeah.
Like you just want to bite into it.
Which is exactly what I wanted, like bright summer socks.
Okay, so that's a great use of colour.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So the other thing that I always, from people asking me, that the problem people have with Colorwork socks is actually getting it to stretch over your heel. So what I found was a lot of people were saying to me, oh, I learnt on YouTube I have to twist or catch my floats every 3 stitches. And I was like, I don't do that myself. And then they're like, but I can't, and now I can't get it over my heel. So I learned from seeing in workshops and stuff that when they were catching them that much, some of them were making it so inelastic that they couldn't get it over the heel. So I thought I need to kind of read a bit more about floats and why we're catching them, and like the distance of what the float should be. So I referred to Vogue Knitting Bible for their best thing on
best knowledge
and they said a float of 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch.
Which is a total different way of thinking about it.
Yeah, so rather than the stitch numbers, so for like a DK or a worsted weight yarn, that would be 5 stitches.
Yeah, 2.5 centimetres would be 5 stitches, exactly.
But stitches are tiny. The gauge is like 38 stitches for 4 inches or 10 centimeters. So actually, it's nine stitches makes a 2.5 centimeter float.
So now with confidence,
So now I feel validated.
you shout from the rooftops.
You do not have to catch your floats.
Exactly.
That often. You can, if
you don't want them to fit you.
some people do it and they fit. But
Okay.
on the whole, from teaching, I've noticed.
Okay, well that
It
gives
can be
you
quite a struggle.
that gives you permission.
Yeah, and as you can see, the floats aren't that.
No,
They
look
aren't that
great.
long. And also with a mitten,
Yes.
catch your floats because your fingers
They spread out.
they spread out like that and you've got rings, but your
But
toes,
hopefully your toes don't.
maybe not as much.
Not as much, exactly. What's the name of this one?
This is called Spooktacular, and this is the Halloween sock of the book.
Okay, that really, they don't look like long floats.
And they
at all.
stretch. You see how
And
stretchy
they
they
do.
are. So it does work.
So there you go. So that's the secret.
So the last thing in the book I wanted to also focus on was the second sock syndrome, which I personally also sometimes suffer
from.
So you've knit one sock, you can see how it looks with your yarn and your colours, and it was exciting, and now you have to do it again.
I know.
So I've learnt myself different methods of making it more fun. So one of the things that helps me is if I have a deadline, if it's a holiday or a birthday, that helps. Also, cast it on immediately.
The second sock.
The second
yeah,
sock.
that's true. So
As
you
soon as you
finish the first one.
Go straight and do some ribbing immediately. Leave it out as well. So kind of leave it so it's in view, so you don't forget it in a project bag. And also something I've seen people do is, so like a pattern like this, the Valentine's pattern, groove is in the heart. These, you could knit one sock with the main colour and the contrast being alternating on the second sock. So it just makes it a bit more fun.
Exactly. And they still look like a pair. They still look like they're matching.
But you're kind of tricking your mind. Oh, this is new.
Mind games. Okay, you need a sock called Mind Games.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good. Now, Charlotte has been teaching, as she suggested, knitters for 7 years now to make well-fitting socks. But in the latest book, she takes it one step further by explaining her design process so that knitters can start to apply their own motive to a sock pattern, any sock pattern actually. And she's going to show us now how to do that. This is the exciting bit.
So the idea came in my head because I do get quite a few requests from people saying, can you design this, that, or the other on themes that I don't have any interest in myself or know anything about. And I thought, if I try to do that, it's not going to be very authentic to me. So I thought, well, why not let's enable people so they can make their own simple Colorwork sock designs if they want for themselves and their friends and family. So in the book, I show you how to do this, and basically I give them
one of your sock patterns.
like a 12-stitch one, because that's kind of easy to work with. But of course, with that you can make them, but you can't
publish them.
You can't sell them because they're copyrighted by the book. Yeah. So, but I thought, this is simple and easy, and it'd be fun for people to do for themselves.
Totally.
So when I normally start with a sock design, I kind of get the idea of what I want, and I always find it's kind of useful to actually draw the down in a sock, so you get an idea of the colours and where you're going to actually put the motif. And also I like to, with something like these camper fan ones, do the camper fan and then finish it and do a little border. And so this is how basically I write it in the book to help you do it yourself.
And it's a really good idea to start with just doing the motif on the leg and not on the here, because you can't go wrong, really.
Exactly.
And it's going to fit you essentially.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you're using my instructions. So that's that was the plan. So what I thought would be fun, Andrea, is I wanted to show here basically doing a design for you. And I was thinking, okay, it should be on something Australian.
Yeah.
And I know that you like
koalas. And this was knitted for us from a dear patron from Western Australia. It's very cute. It's an Alan Dart design. Yeah.
So I basically put my thinking cap on and I've designed a little koala sock, Andrea's koala socks. And yeah, as I explain in the book, you don't have to be amazing at drawing, just get the idea, get the colours down. And so I started off and with just a basic kind of koala face I'm planning on drawing up. And then for the bordering of the sock, I thought, why, let's use gum tree leaves because the koalas eat them. Yeah. So
it's a good idea, and I like how you put it down here on the toe,
because I love knitting the plain bit, but I like I'm working
a little bit of extra
excitement,
detail at the toe.
Yes, exactly.
So you can wear your Birkenstocks.
Yes, I love that. Set a new fashion trend.
Okay, so you're going to show us how to do this now.
Yeah, I'm going to try and draw it up here.
So this comes in the book, this chart.
Yes. So, like I said, the 12 stitches across is a good one to work with, because then you can do them in multiple sizes for your friends or your loved ones. And that the number of rows is a good one for the leg. It's a good number to fit on the leg.
That's a really good starting point.
Yeah. And I explain in the book a bit more about, try not to do more than 3 colours, otherwise you're going to make really elastic. And if you do more than 3 colours, you will have to probably do duplicate stitch. Yes. Try not to have too long of floats. If you do, maybe break it up with some dots.
Yeah, and that's another reason why just doing it on the leg to start off with, if you're inexperienced, is a brilliant idea.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
Okay, so let's see Charlotte draw. Okay.
Up in the tree, do you feel like some leaves? You sleep for most of the day. I too will sleep your way. Koala, 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 bye. Koala, 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 bye. Koala, now it is time. I've been waiting in line for a cuddle with you, and now I'm sleepy too. Koala, 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 bye. Koala, 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 bye.
Okay, so I'm happy with this. I think it's worked well. He looks like a koala.
He certainly does.
He's like 3 different shades of grey. I was looking at your koala, and they have like fluffy ears. So I'm thinking like maybe that could be knit like with furry yarn or like mohair. Yeah, something like that. And then when I would try and knit it, I think I might attempt these as stitches, but
his eyes,
and that
duplicate,
bit of the mouth, that could be duplicate stitch. So what I would need to do, I think, is so because it's knit cuff down, I would need to knit it, turn it round, and knit it that way. Yeah, and I would start it. Basically, I start the sock because it's a small amount of stitches and use it as the swatch. So then you see the border, I've gone like one way and the other way. It's kind of like symmetrical.
Yeah, that balances it
out.
with
Definitely.
It's so amazing because when you see it like this, you can't really tell, but I'm sure when it's knitted up, it's going to really look like leaves,
Yeah, exactly.
That's the magic of it.
Exactly.
Okay, and what about the background? What colour are you going to do in the background?
So I was thinking that maybe kind of like Australia in the beaches, and I'm thinking kind of like a sandy colour.
Oh yeah,
so
that's nice.
Like I can try it with that kind of colour. I'll definitely look in my stash as well and see.
So you get your coloured pencils out and you can just sort of colour in little sections
and just different... see, or like maybe even a peachy colour, but a light colour because it's obviously I want the koala to pop out and the leaves.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Excellent.
Wow, there we go.
So-
Showing your secrets in action.
In action, yeah.
Okay, so for beginners or those who've never knitted socks before,
Yes.
Charlotte has an online course through Domestika, and that is a super great way to join in the fun. So tell us exactly what knitters can expect to learn from this course.
So I basically aimed it at total beginners, people who hardly knit, and they see these and they go, I want to knit Colorwork socks. And it was quite a big thing to try and do, but I think it's been done successfully. I literally show you the basics from knitting and purling and going on to show you exactly what you need to learn and know to make the socks. And it's an online series, so you can just watch the bits that you need to do whenever you're free to do it.
Absolute beginner knitters
Absolute
successfully
beginners.
do it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, and they post their projects on the forum, and they've learnt to knit with me, and they've done them successfully.
That's
so
incredible.
I'm really impressed with the course for
That's
them.
really, really good. Okay, and also I think with your skill, the knitting world is eagerly waiting for you to branch out and maybe include some hats or sweaters, or even some underwear like hot pants. Hot pants with. When I saw your heart socks, I thought hot pants with hearts.
Valentine hot pants.
So is there a chance we're going to see that happen?
I'd love to, and I'm thinking about it more and more, but I want to make sure that when I do garments, I need to learn more about kind of fit and, know things like grading and things like that. It's a lot more difficult with garments than with socks. So I want to make sure I do and learn and get it correct before I release it out
the knitting world.
But initially I was like, do knitters, do people want to wear sweaters with like mushrooms and chickens or shrimp? Do they want these things? Very often like geometric shapes is popular. But this year I saw in the summer there were a lot of clothing brands like Bowden did a whole line with lobsters. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe it's time. Let's see.
And you can start off with hats and things.
Yeah.
And like people on the extremities, people can be more crazy, and then they kind of slowly get it onto their jumper.
Yes.
That's going to be so exciting. Okay, well, thank you so much for inspiring us all again. I'm really excited. I'm going to knit this pair and this pair as soon as she publishes it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say goodbye to the audience.
Bye.
Let me just take 5 seconds.
I really apologise for
And it's a good day for moving along. Yes, it's a good day.
Oh, I want to take a photo of you. That's not fair. I've switched my phone off.
Afterwards, there'll be plenty of times you can take candid ones.
I took a photo of her brushing her teeth and then promised.
And then posted it.
Promised I wouldn't post.
Okay. So everything's running.
Is that running?
Yes.
Okay, I want you to triple check now.
I said to the sun, good morning,